some pals, and there's also therapy too.
All right, guys, let's do this. Welcome on in to Park Pals. Thank you so much for being here. All right, we are at Season 5, Episode 21, Swing Vote. Like we'd mentioned, this has been kind of a long season, and it's kind of wild that we're rounding out and we're getting on in there. So, follow up from the last episode, Jon Favreau did actually confirm that he took the Patton Oswalt speech and put it in Boba Fett. So, I think I had mentioned that I wasn't sure if that was confirmed yet or if that was really true. But it is true. So just be aware of that. How incredible that this lore has reached beyond the scope of parks. It's really wild. And I just interviewed Brian Stack, who plays Ted in Ted Party Day, and who comes back to be the jeweler for Anna and Chris's wedding moment. And oh my God, we talked about that moment, which is why I'm bringing it up. But I just want to say that you guys are going to love Brian Stack. He's so good. It's amazing. Okay, well, we have an awesome team here. This was written by Joe Mandy, who plays the fellow who's always watching movies, the Iron Man guy. Like, why would I rent a movie? I can watch it on my, phone right now. I did a little bit of a breakdown on him before because he's written before, but just in case you need to be reminded, he was also in Modern Family, Hacks, so many things. This was also written by Alan Yang, who we haven't seen in a while, I feel. So it's really lovely to see him back in the mix on the writer's crew and in the band again. That's amazing. And then this was directed by Alan Yang as well, which is amazing. I just think that is so incredible because, like I said, we haven't really seen a ton of him. I even think I mentioned that a while back that I can't remember why we were discussing that. But anyway, so I'm really glad to see him. Obviously, he's a huge part of Parks, but also The Good Place. He created the show Loot on Apple TV with Maya Rudolph. And Adam Scott is in there for a brief moment as well. So check that out if you haven't. And then he also created Master of None with Aziz. Amazing stuff. So well done on that. And great team here. So as you can probably tell, Maddie's not with me, but she did send in a summary. So let's go ahead and check that out. And just as a heads up, she said that she ranted a little bit, but honestly, like, what's new for us? I rant all the freaking time. So let's just go ahead and start playing it.
Hi, Park Pals. When Ron proposes budget cuts that Leslie doesn't like, she goes the extra mile to get Jamm on her side. Andy struggles with his place in Mouse Rut. Tom asks Anne for help with the Mona Lisa. So I have some thoughts that I'll share on this episode. I love Leslie's tenacity here, but I think we do see this a lot where she just goes so gung-ho, and this person that she hates and that has been so awful to her, and Ron too, right? Like, Ron was charged for punching him. Like, the fact that they give him so much power for his vote, I think that upsets me more than anything. That they both kind of, well, Ron less so, right? But still, I'm a little surprised by this for Ron, that they just kind of suck up to him to get his vote. And I know that that's a part of politics, not necessarily a part of politics I like, but that's kind of the part that frustrates me the most there. And I am, subjectively, I am upset with Ron because putt-putt is so fun. I don't know about you, Holly, but I grew up playing putt-putt with my family. Like, on our family nights, that would occasionally be something we chose to do together, and I loved it so much. That was such a wonderful time of our childhood. I think ours was privately owned, so I don't know if that's something Pawnee could have, was like a privately owned putt-putt to make up for it. But yeah, I would be emotionally upset as well if I was Leslie, so I get it. When it comes to Andy, I think this is such a beautiful and relatable, and I haven't always been able to relate to it, but a beautiful and relatable aspect of life. It's just a really sad part of life, but sometimes, you get a job, other stuff pops up, you get married, you have a kid, and all this other stuff in your life. While you love it and it's still important to you and it still brings you joy and happiness, like this does for Andy, right? Sometimes it just falls on the back burner, and it's really sad, But that's what I love about this part for Andy, is because it is relatable. And I think a lot of people go through this where they're like, oh crap, I forgot that I used to do this and it makes me really happy. I've like moments like that where I'm like, I haven't written a song. I haven't played at an open mic in a really long time. And that makes me really sad. But at the same time, I look at it and it's like, I don't have all the time in the world to do that, unfortunately. And, I could make more of an effort to put time into it. But, then you're thinking, okay, do I give up time with Killian? Do I give up time here or here or here? And so it's like a real compromise. So I think this is like a real life lesson that they put in Andy here. I might be looking way more deep into this than they meant for us to, but that's just kind of what I related to in this moment. This swan song that he writes, though, I have to say, is amazing. For like him finding out that the band is performing without him. He basically writes this song. It's got to be in like 30 minutes, right? Or less. And it's amazing. I love this song. He did a great job. Natural talent for Andy / Mark Rivers. So, yeah. So I do love that he realizes, he doesn't have to be the center of the band, right? He has Burly that he can lean on. Love that we have Burly back. I can't wait to hear if you got any tidbits from him. Yeah. And that he's like, yeah, I'll join you guys again. But we'll be partners. We'll sing together. So I love that. I also have to point out that one of my favorite things that, my husband quotes quite a bit, Ivan quotes quite a bit, is the fact that he doesn't melt his cheese on his nachos, which is basically just cheese and crackers, but with tortilla chips. I mean, I guess it's shredded probably, but yeah, that's so funny to me. And then lastly, Tom asking Anne for her help with Mona Lisa. Like, part of me is like, Tom, grow up, man. Like, you've got to stand up to her. He has this weakness, and I feel like we've been watching him grow, right? Like when he presented to Ron, he was like, no, I can't be with John Ralphio. Like, you're not taking this as seriously as me. So like, peace out. Like, I'm going to do this by myself. Right. And we've seen him grow, and he's stronger, and he's running a successful business. And then I feel like we have these episodes where he like falls backwards 2 steps. And this for me is that. I know she's scary. I get it. And I don't know if there's something deeper here of like, it's not always that easy for someone to get out of a relationship that seems toxic. And that very well could be what they're trying to like allude to. But for me, the fact that he has to go to Anne for help, I do love that she helps him, but then she totally gets in her own way, in a way. She doesn't want to be connected to this anymore, right? But she did it for the blanket, and then Anne gets roped into it. Mona Lisa's just an awful person, but I love Jenny Slate so much. I first saw her on SNL, and I thought she was hilarious, and she wasn't on SNL for very long, I don't think, maybe 2 seasons. But I love her, and she does such a great job playing Mona Lisa. She really makes you like really frustrated and like, ooh, you are an awful person. But yeah, that's my comment, is like, I can understand it if it's like toxic and she is kind of being aggressive with him, that it is hard to get out of those relationships and you do need help. But they do take a comedic approach to it. But the fact that he's even dating her and one of his employees anyway is crazy. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm excited to hear what you think, Holly, and I'll see you later.
Awesome. Yes, a lot of great points. We have so much to talk about in this episode. So just like I do with anybody's voice memos, I was kind of making notes through that. But I don't know. I guess I was just desensitized to Ron and Leslie sucking up to Jamm, just because when you're passionate about something, especially in politics, and when you believe in something, that's just like how it goes. I guess I'm just like used to seeing that, used to hearing that. So I was like, yeah, this is just classic. Like that's how the government works, I guess. But I do understand and can verify / validate that it is awkward to watch, because we all don't love Jamm. We all are annoyed with him, and so to see them being trying to be like friendly to him, I think the thing that also makes it work for me is that both of them, both Ron and Leslie, hate this. You can see Leslie's look to camera. You can see she's faking it. You can see Ron is not wanting to be with Jamm at all. And so I think if it was like they were maybe fighting a little bit harder or being more genuine, I'd be like, wait, why are you changing your entire self? But they're not. They're just doing what they have to do. And I think that's the part that I sort of kind of respected on both of their ends. Their means to an end, if you will. So that's my thought on that. And then, I always played putt going to the beach and stuff growing up. I never had one at home or anywhere close. Now they have the Putt Shack, which is, if you guys have that in your city, you should definitely check it out. It's not beach putt, okay? It's like a Dave & Buster's, but putt. And the courses are super fun and set up. They're very short, but they're very fun. And I don't know that I've ever, I guess I didn't even look at this up really. I should have, but I guess I didn't look it up because I have never heard of a government funded putt. I've heard of government funded playgrounds and parks and stuff, obviously, but I've never heard of a government funded putt. So I didn't think to even look that up. And yeah, I'm definitely on Leslie's side, like totally ridiculously, I guess, in a way, because I think putt is fun, and it's essentially a park where kids can be with their families and stuff like that, and it's a really good community environment, and you could probably have other events there and things like that. So I didn't really mind, and to be honest, like again, you guys can hate me if you want, and Ron can hate me too, but I didn't think $9,000 to the taxpayer, like spread amongst all of us, is really that bad. So, because I was assuming that he was talking $9,000 total, right? So, and I know for Pawnee, that's probably a lot of money with people's income and everything. But for me personally, I was like, I'll pay for that shit. Just like, I don't know. Add that to my fucking taxes, bitch. Like, go for it. I'll go to that putt every fucking weekend. Sorry, I didn't mean to get cursy there, but anyway, so that's kind of, yes, I do stand with Leslie on this, but I do understand, obviously, Ron wanting to, I guess it's just hard because I know Ron wants to save the taxpayer money, but he's also doing this selfishly, as is Leslie, I suppose. But Leslie is also thinking about the families and the community of Pawnee, whereas Ron is only thinking about himself, in my opinion. I guess he's saying he's thinking about the taxpayer. He wants the taxpayer to have their money, but it seems more not nefarious. It just doesn't seem as friendly or community forward as he is making it seem. So, but again, to each their own. You can all have your opinion. I definitely would be on Leslie's side, and that's no fucking surprise, guys. Come on. And it's no surprise that Maddie is too. Yeah, I get why you got deep with Andy's moment of forgetting things, having too many things on your plate. I guess the thing for me, my thought on that is like, he's the one that forgot to text, and so I'm kind of like, it's kind of Andy's fault. Like, you're the one that didn't say anything and didn't text anybody back. But that happens, and I guess, yeah, it makes sense that we both have that feeling, because that's honestly how sometimes the podcast went. So I mean, and that's totally understandable. Life is so much more layered than just one band practice, you know what I mean? And it's something that's really fun, and you want to have your extracurricular activities and things like that. But like you said, do you pick that, or do you pick your family, or do you pick your kid? You have to pick your kid. You have to pick your spouse. Like, I mean, I guess you don't have to, but that's what's important, I feel, in life. So I guess I would be more understanding if Andy had at least let the band know, hey, I can't come to rehearsals all the time, but I'd really like to be a part of the band still when I can. That's, I guess, my perspective on that, which makes total sense because it's kind of meta, I guess, for us. But yeah, I love Andy's swan song. Oh my God. It's so, so good. Mark Rivers must have written that. And it's so beautiful and catchy. And it's one of the longer songs that I think we witness in the show for Mouse Rat or for whatever Andy's band is going to be. It's so, so good. So I love that. And then, yes, the nacho cheese. That's one of my most favorite lines from Burly. And in fact, I think I even mentioned that the very, very first time I messaged him about the podcast and him coming on and everything. I said that was one of my favorite lines. And you guys, if you've been listening, you guys know that I have that for every character that I reach out to. I always, like, for Joe Mandy, who wrote this episode, I'm always like, he's the Iron Man guy. For Jim Meskimen, who is the MC at so many different events, like I call him the wood eye guy because he holds up a wood eye at Ron's convention award thing. And then for Burly, I think his was the nacho cheese. Why don't you melt the cheese? It's so sincere and genuine. Like, why don't you do that? And then he's kind of like upset about it. I love the way he played that, where it's like, I'm so disturbed by the fact that you don't melt that freaking cheese. And in fact, I think there was one time, Maddie, where Maddie had sent a message, a picture of nachos, and the cheese was very much not melted. And we were like, oh my God, it's happening. I actually did not reach out to Burly this time because he told us so many wonderful things about this episode and already. So I'm going to post his full interview at the link in the show notes, because we talk at length about this episode and others and Mouse Rat in general. And he was also on Parks and Recollection, not to give them a free plug, but he was on Parks and Recollection, which is a shorter version of kind of what we talked about too. So check that out if you want to know more about Burly. He's so awesome. We talk about him so much, but he's such a good guy, and he's in so many commercials, very talented, and so nice when he's one of the people I can count on to email me back if I have a question, even if he doesn't know the answer. You know what I mean? So great work to that. Great summary. Okay, let's move forward. Oh, I was going to say, we are moving forward, but I feel like this episode is earlier in my head. I'm watching it and I was like, damn, this episode is now like the very end of season 5. Maybe it just feels like quintessential Parks with everybody in their respective places, and also Mouse Rat hasn't been around in a while, and we did kind of have Mouse Rat fall off a little bit. We haven't talked about them in quite some time, so I think maybe that's where it's coming in, because Mouse Rat, was in the earlier seasons, I feel, or maybe last season, and we just haven't talked to them in a second. So, so I think maybe in my head I was like, wait, this wasn't earlier? And the nacho cheese thing just lives in my mind forever as such a peak Parks moment. So I'm always like, didn't that happen earlier? Didn't that happen already? Maybe it's just because we talked about it so much. So I love it. And we start with this episode with Leslie storming into Ron's office saying, we already talked about this, but saying, what the hell is this? And Ron says it's his budget proposal. And I love that she says that she's rage glowing. I love that. And we learn that Ron wants to cut funding for the Pawnee Palms putt. What did the PPPP ever do to you? And I think it's just insane that he even has a budget proposal, Ron, that he is even getting involved in this. I think we saw this with the start of his, government involvement, I suppose, because at the beginning it was more so, I just want to cut everything, and wasn't specific. It was just like, I hate everything. Bah. I'm grumpy and a libertarian. And then when he saw that Leslie was going to bail out the movie video dome thing, that's when he started getting really involved and going to the city hall meetings. And that's when I was like, oh my God. So that was kind of the start of his trajectory into caring / trying to make changes on his own and going and being more engaged in the city and the community. And I do have this note. We already talked about it, but people who know me know I love putt so much. I think it's one of the most fun activities for a group to do, and so, especially families and whatever. So I do love that Leslie is so passionate about it too, and it's a wonderful parallel there. Then Leslie refers to the mini golf. I was going to say, this is from IMDb. So putt apparently is a trademarked brand with orange rails and all holes are par 2. And so this park in this episode is not technically a putt-putt. I don't personally care. And in fact, I hope that you skipped ahead or weren't listening to that. Because I don't know if that matters. All that matters is that it's fun and it's cute and it's worth saving. Okay. Leslie's talking head is hilarious, though. She's like talking about all the different things that you don't cut funding for. And she's just looping in putt-putt with very important infrastructure things such as roads, bridges. And then she does include parks in there too, but then she just throws in putt-putts and hummingbird feeders as essentially, which I think is so funny because she's like, yeah, whatever. Okay. Roads and bridges. Who cares? But it's super funny. And it does bring this back, actually, because she mentions gazebo repair. And that is one of the things that she tried to save with Nick Newport Sr.'s moment. So, when that was being destroyed. And so I love that they're bringing that back to all the things that she thinks are really important. So Ron says he wants to cut useless projects for the government, but he also wants to cut useful government projects. So I feel like he has no credibility, honestly. It's just like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh gosh, you guys are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I was like, is Ron trying to be like the Doge of the Parks Department or the Pawnee government? And it's just not really working. Although I do feel like Ron is qualified. So no, he's not the Doge because he is qualified and he actually has credentials. Now, I will say, like I said before, I don't trust anything really as far as I'm talking myself in circles. I understand that. But, Ron doesn't like the government at all. So I feel like he's just going to try to cut whatever he possibly can. But the big difference between him and Doge is that he actually has experience. So say what you will about that. Okay. It's not as bad. But it's still bad. Okay. At least he's not trying to cut healthcare. I hope that's not what he would try to do. Lord Jesus. Okay. There's a city council meeting, and Ron says, I'm sure you'll debate this. Just bring it there. And the fact that Ron is even thinking about this, like I said, is just wild to me. And I know it's for his own causes and for cutting something, which is really important to him. But still, it's just amazing, I guess, to see that he cares about this so much to actually create a government, a budget proposal, and then to say that there's a city hall meeting that she'll debate it at, that he'll probably be at, or if he's not there, he'll find out what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's involved, and it's very interesting. Okay. So she says the putt-putt could create more electricity. Well, she says it will create more electricity than the Hoover Dam. It already has windmills. Who cares? Which I feel is kind of the running joke in this episode where she doesn't really have the answer, but she's like, whatever, it already has windmills. Who cares? And she just says who cares the whole time to justify. Leslie goes to talk to Jamm and Milton, and she compliments them about how handsome they look today. And I love them both speaking simultaneously. Milton's like, I feel very ill. And Jamm is like, yeah, I know. Oh God, here we go with Milton's racism again. And he hates that all the races are integrated at the putt-putt. So he's going to vote with Ron to defund it. And Jamm is the swing vote here, which is the name of our episode. And it's terrible. And so she's trying to see which way he's going to go and see if there's any way that she can persuade him. He says he hates both Leslie and Ron's, but he also likes putt-putt. So he also doesn't like government programs. So it's really a wild card. And Leslie says, what are you doing tonight? He makes a douchey joke of more like, who am I doing tonight? And then immediately says, no one. What's up? So now we're at the bar with Ben, April, and Andy. And I love that the sign outside the bar says flannel grunge. And we learned that Andy and Ben just closed a deal on the music program, Redwood Music Program, which I think was the same program that Andy wanted to fund in the first place a couple episodes back when Ben took his Sweetums job. And if it wasn't the Redwood one, it was another music program. So that's really great and wonderful that they brought that back. I think that's really important just for the continuity and really fun to see that again. And that we can actually give Andy a piece of, know that he's doing well at his job. I think that's really great and will lead into the next season of what he can accomplish and achieve in his professional life, All right. So then Ben says he suggested going out for a drink, but he came out empty-handed because he is now the designated driver. He didn't pick the bar, and he's also paying. And then I knew that was coming. The last part, the paying thing. I love Adam Scott's. I should be more assertive. So Andy says the band is really moving him and Ben. Like they sound. Oh, not moving him and Ben. Sorry, I read my notes wrong. Andy says the band is really moving him, and Ben says they sound kind of crappy to me, which is so funny to see how they view Mouse Rat without them knowing that they're hearing Mouse Rat. I love that. And April points out that it sounds like one of their songs. And it really is one of their songs because Mouse Rat is playing without Andy. And Andy selfishly is like, oh my God, I didn't even recognize them without me because I'm the only one that matters. Which we do get an arc. We do get some growth in that. So it's okay. By the end of the episode, I mean. So the new Mouse Rat is called Rat Mouse. And Burly, Yang, and Rivers are there. And I love that they're, keeping that same band. It's so lovely. And then, oh my gosh, we see Mona Lisa again. And like Maddie said, Jenny Slate is so perfect. These lines honestly could have gone so wrong. They're so over the top and weird. And Jenny Slate just does such a good job, I feel. It's so funny on the page, obviously. But I feel like, you have to have that combination of the actor that can pull that line off. And she and John Ralphio, they are just such a good team, and they're so talented. They can really do that. She did it so right. And she says she doesn't know where Tom's car is, but even though she borrowed it, she forgot, I guess, that she had borrowed Tom's car. And it's also funny that she says for a month, can I borrow your car for a month? And it's just, I don't know, that seemed like a funny specific detail to me. And then she was like, I'm gassy. Let's make out. And I just feel like it's so chaotic and crazy. She's pushing people out of the way to make out on the pool table. But Tom is into it / isn't going to turn down making out. So he just goes along with it. And then Tom says he's in constant fear of his life. But the mature thing is to have someone else break up with her for him. So we see Anne is there too. And I guess my question was, why is everybody there? Because it doesn't sound like Anne is with Tom. I mean, I know for the course of the show, this is, they all need to be in the same place, technically, I guess. But I just thought that was funny that they're kind of having a little reunion party moment. And there's no really, I guess it's Pawnee, so it's a small town. But why is Anne there? Was she just there by herself? Why is Tom there? I guess him and Mona Lisa were hanging out at a bar, so that makes more sense. But anyway, I just thought that was... If you guys, I'm curious if you guys had the same thought. Anyway, so yeah, Tom starts off well because he's, complimenting her, Anne, but he's basically manipulating her to get her to talk. And he's like, I heard you and Traeger might be getting back together. And I'm like, where did he hear that? Who, everyone else is having a conversation about Anne and Chris except for Anne and Chris. I'm not going to go into a full rant, I promise, okay? But I am curious where he heard that. Maybe Ben told him? Maybe Chris told Ben and Ben told Tom? I don't know. I do love Anne's face to camera, though, as soon as Tom is like, yeah, whatever, because Anne starts to kind of open up. And then Tom asks Anne to break up with Mona Lisa for her. And Anne is like, will you at least pay me or do something for me? And she wants the chenille blanket, which is an empty bribe because he didn't think that she was going to say yes to that. And yeah, I'm kind of with Maddie. I'm like, Tom, can you just dump her if you need to dump her? Come on. And it's not even it's a, relationship that you should be scared to end because it's not like this, you're going to break her heart or anything like that. She's going to move on, but he's more scared physically because it sounds like she would beat him up or something and he would do nothing. So he just can't deal with it. Side note, I looked up chenille and it's a fancy type of yarn. yarn/thread, and there are chenille couches, blankets, sweaters. I found a bunch of range in prices, so it's probably depending maybe on how big you get it, like if you get it for your bed or just for like a comfy moment. But I found a $35 blanket on Wayfair, and then a $130 one, and then a $200 one. So I guess it's like, who's to say? And it depends on how fancy you want to get, I guess. But it is kind of like ribbed. It does look like yarn, and it looks very similar to, how you would like a sweater that you would knit. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it looks like to me. Let's see. Oh, there's a deleted scene where Anne doesn't know which red flags of Tom's to choose from to tell Mona Lisa, like to try to get Mona Lisa to break up with Tom. And honestly, these are all things that Mona Lisa would like, so I think that's why it wouldn't work. But the reason I'm telling you this is because I can just imagine the writers just having so much fun with all this random ass shit that Tom does and why Mona Lisa should like break up with him. So I think it's really funny. And they always have what they call the candy bags, which are basically just all these different alts on the day of shooting, or maybe in the room, where they just had a bunch of different things that they wanted to shoot to see which one was funniest. And they did end up cutting quite a bit, but I think the ones they left in were really good too. So yeah, super funny moment. All right, so now we are at the putt place, and Jamm is talking on the phone about Courtney Thorne Smith, but it was a total look-alike that worked at the gas station. This lady that worked at the gas station looked like Courtney Thorne Smith, and she is one of the people that was on Melrose Place, and Ally McBeal. You totally know her face if you saw her. Well, I'm assuming that you don't already know her. If you know her, great. You know who he's talking about. But I had to look her up, and I got her really confused with the main gal, Heather Locklear, I believe. And so, anyways, yeah, she's super cute, super hot. So Leslie says that she's pulling out all the stops. She really wants Jamm to fall in love with this place, so we'll vote for the putt to stay open. And a part of me thought that isn't Chris being there like kind of a conflict of interest, but I don't know. Maybe he's just there as a citizen. I don't know. It still seems a little like shaky, but at the same time, I guess they always have those moments. All right. So she's asking Chris to be really upbeat and positive. And yeah, this part, okay. Last week we talked about how Maddie didn't like the fallopian princess, and I liked it. This thing that they give him to say, conversational lubricant, no, that's weird to me. Maybe other people think it's cute, but that's weird. And I like Leslie's, response. So there's probably a less, gross way to say that, but sure. And I think it's also so funny that he's a caddy, because there's no caddies on the putt shack. You literally have one golf club. It's not like you're on a golf course choosing which driver, which one's going to be the best hit for the certain, hole. It's so funny to me. I will say, I do love this Chris moment when he says, way to be, duck, because he's just like going around the positivity, if you will, for the whole, putt shack. No. And so, yeah, I do love that, the way that he says that. I just have a note that Jamm is a terrible person just because, like, he's so awful. But we did talk about how Glazer is lovely. We love Glazer, but Jamm, damn, that's tough to get by. Well, then we get a wrench in the plans because Ron is joining them and probably will try to get him to not vote the way that Leslie wants to, of course. And this is a type of bribery, which, like we talked about in the summary, is not great. We don't love that. Not the best. But, I guess, like I said, I was just desensitized to it. And just felt like that was what they had to do. But I understand that it's not morally correct, I suppose. So Andy approaches Burly about the band situation, and Andy says he's the lead singer / songwriter / nacho chef. I love this line so much. We already talked about that. Why don't you melt the cheese? No one has had the guts to tell you. And then this is, I guess, where the tables kind of turn, because at first I was like, oh, fuck, they're playing without him? That sucks. I hate that. And then we learn that Andy's kind of not the victim here. The band tried to call him like 20 times, but he didn't pick up because he dropped his phone in a bowl of cereal. If you bothered to call me, you'd have known that. So I think that's where I was like, oh, well, they're not wrong. Like, this is all kind of Andy's moment that he didn't have the time to say I can't be a part of the band, or, you know, I don't have whatever. So I especially, you know, because they said 20 times. It's like if they called him once and was just like, oh, well, he's not answering, bye. That would be one thing. Like, try again, you know, but 20 times, that's, you know, they gave it a fair shot. But it does suck because I know he loves that band, and Chris is just kind of, or Pratt, well, Andy has just kind of forgotten that part and left that a little bit behind. And I guess he didn't have the constant reminder of the band to show him how much he loved that. You know what I mean? Because he was really in love with is really in love with April and building their life together. So I understand that it can take, you know, a toll on the other parts of your life. I do love Burly and the Backstabbers. I think that's a really good. I love Yang's line of, yeah, he's really good at coming up with names. By the way, I already said this, but Yang, or Chang rather, I think is the name they get, the character name, but that is Alan Yang, the writer and director of this episode. Okay, so back at the putt-putt moment, Jamm is ordering a snow cone from the snow cone lady. This snow cone gal is played by Esther Povitsky, who is a huge star. She went on to create the show Alone Together, which Jim O'Heir was in the pilot of. She was in a movie called Drugstore June. She was in New Girl, 19 episodes of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. She's in the show Dollface, which I feel like I watched a few episodes of, and I did like it. Brenda Song, Kat Dennings, and the gal from Pretty Little Liars, Shay Mitchell, is in it. I believe it's on Hulu if you want to check that out. And she also does a lot of stand-up shows, so you should follow her on Instagram to see if she's playing in a town near you. I think right now she's doing a lot of LA and Chicago stuff, but I'm sure that she's going to be, you know, going on tour and stuff every now and again. And she is also engaged to Dave King, who is a writer on the show and makes cameos in the show sometimes, which is lovely. And she just had a baby with him. She has posted quite a few things on her Instagram about their baby, and it's very precious and cute, and love that so much. Okay, I want to mention that this putt-putt course was called Golf and Stuff. The real name in real life in California, this putt-putt thing is called Golf and Stuff, which I feel like is such a Parks and Rec name. Food and things, come on. Oh my God, Golf and Stuff, that is perfect. Perfect. So anyways, I just had to tell you that, and it's in Norwalk, California, which is out about an hour and a half outside of LA. So if you guys want to check that out, it's there for you. Chris comes out with free Mylar balloons, and Jamm gets all of them because Leslie is trying to persuade him to vote her way and wants to give Jamm all of the balloons, and it's annoying. And Ron is pointing out that this putt-putt thing costs the taxpayer thousands of dollars every year. Okay, Ron, we get it. I get it. There is a hilarious deleted scene that I really related to from Leslie, so I'm just going to go ahead and play that really fast.
People happy, and I will do anything I can to try to save it. I used to have all my birthday parties here. And then one day I was like, Leslie, you're turning 30. It's time to step up to the roller rink.
I could see me having a birthday party at the putt-putt place. Actually, you know what? That's not far off. I totally forgot. I had a birthday party. Well, I invited the people who could come to Putt Shack for my last birthday. Oh my gosh, that is so hilarious. So I feel you, Leslie. I feel you. I really do. We don't have a roller. Well, we have a roller rink a little bit further south of here, but not. I don't think we have one right in Nashville. So you guys, it's just so funny. Okay. So now it's nighttime at the putt-putt, and Jamm thinks he can be a pro because he gets the ball in the hole that's like 5 centimeters away. Oh, man. The confidence / douchiness is just played so well. Leslie's really trying to sell this place, and Ron just keeps slapping them down. And honestly, Jamm starts saying that he's getting bored of this. Like, this is annoying that you guys are just like talking facts and stuff. I don't want to talk about this. And Jamm is winning, apparently. But I love Chris's moment of they're setting a course record for friendship. And then Ron points out that Leslie is losing on purpose so that Jamm will win and vote for her. And it brings us back to Ron's hatred of lying. Skim milk is a lying thing because it's just water that's lying about being milk. So that upsets Ron, obviously. And this is another part. This is the thing I was talking about before when she says the windmill thing. Like, whatever, who cares? Ron says, after she says the losing on purpose thing, and he's like, can I have a word? And she says, I have a word for you. Stop it. I know it's more than one word, because she goes on to say a lot of words. I know it's more than one word. Shut up. And just runs away. So now Anne goes to talk to Mona Lisa, and she brings a screwdriver out of her purse. Super just already there. And I love how casual she is when Anne says, no, I don't want to fight. And she's just like, oh, okay, that's fine. I think it's such a fun choice. Because, I feel like she could have, said, are you sure? Or given her a look, like put away the screwdriver, but given her a look like, I'm going to fuck you up anyways. Are you sure? Like I'm on guard kind of thing. But she was just like, no, okay, that's fine. If you don't want to fight, we don't have to fight. I love that. She wants to know Tom's ATM code. Oh dear. Then she shouts to the whole bar that Diddy has an Instagram. That did not age well. Lord. Did not age well. So we're going to move on. And the band sounds good. Andy is saying he's an adult. He doesn't need the band, but he's really sad about it. And you can tell. And April's trying to make him happy and say that they're so bad and they're totally nothing without you. Burly sounds terrible. And Andy's like, no, they're actually sounding really good. And Burly has a beautiful voice. And then we learn / are kind of reminded that April isn't really into Mouse Rat, but she's a loving, supporting wife and will do whatever she can to make Andy feel supported and happy about what he loves and, his hobbies and things like that. I do love April's playlist. I think this is so wonderful. German death reggae, holiday sound effects from the 1950s, and Bette Midler, obviously. Again, I just love how that's just matter of fact. Of course, who wouldn't listen to Bette Midler? Which is the truth. And of course, she doesn't mention this in this one, but she did say that she loved the Neutral Milk Hotel in previous seasons. So yeah, that's her vibes. And I love those vibes. They're very specific and very April. Great writing on that. So Andy says he's retiring from music. He wants to make himself feel better, but he wants to have a last solo performance to round out his music career, essentially. And then he's saying all these things that he'll need. He says I love this line. And this is, again, one of the things where I was like, what? I thought we've already heard this. But again, maybe I just think I talk about it all the time. But Andy says he needs a computer fan along with all of his other stuff. And it's so funny and so specific and accurate. He says he needs 4 more beers, lightning bolt of inspiration. And Ben is like, why do you need a computer fan? And Andy just matter-of-factly explains the purpose of a computer fan, but not why he specifically needs it. I love it so much. And I love Ben's look to camera. It's so funny. Sometimes when you use a computer, it gets hot and the fan cools it down. Like, what? Like, will he use the fan for himself? Oh, I love it. Okay, so back with Anne and Mona Lisa. Anne lies and says that Tom is broke, which makes Mona Lisa totally turn off for Tom because she's just into it for the money. Tommy has his own business. And Anna's like, yeah, but he had to borrow a lot of money, so you should probably run away from him. And so she does, essentially. She's like, I don't F with poorsies. And she loves Anne for telling her, and now they're going to be best friends. Side note, they do have a deleted scene, oh my gosh, where Tom is like, the best way to escape her is to run. And then they just run. And you guys know that I don't love that solution, so I'm really glad they cut it. If you're new here, go back and listen to the other episodes, and I'll explain that. But I just don't love when that's the only end to the scene of like, run, No. So I'm glad they didn't have that. And we get another great Tom face after Mona Lisa and Anne are BFFs. Love that very much. Leslie is losing on purpose again at the putt-putt, and Chris lets Julie, the ice cream lady, go home because it's getting late, and Jamm has eaten all of the syrups anyways. Leslie tries to get her to stay and says, like, well, school's not important because Julie says she has calculus homework. And I do love this, like, immediate shift of, like, I just love Amy Poehler here. Math is very important, especially for young women. Stay in school. Well, math is worthless in real life. You have a calculator or app or whatever for tips. Amy Poehler's acting there is just really lovely. Apparently she makes a fun Toy Story reference, and I did not know this, but apparently Rashida Jones goes on to be a writer for Toy Story Toy Story 4 in 2019, but she left due to creative differences. But she is credited as a writer for the original story in Toy Story 4. So that's interesting. I did not know that she was involved in that. So Ron is like, you know what? We're done. You've had your time. We're done here. We did the thing. Which way are you voting? We've both sucked up to you. Well, Ron doesn't really suck up to him, to be honest. Ron is not sucking up to him. He's just like trying to cock block him, essentially. Or cock block Leslie, I suppose. But anyhow, Ron's like, okay, let's get down to business. Which way are you voting? And Jamm, I love this line. You sure make a guy feel like a real lady. And Jamm says winner gets his vote. So now they're going to compete. Ron and Leslie are going to compete. And whoever wins that game gets Jamm's vote. And a part of me feels like that was a waste of time to just butter up Jamm. But at the same time, like, Leslie didn't know Ron was coming. You know what I mean? But this is a good idea, I suppose, for the way to end this. And Ron is like, you know what? I love how he says something along the lines of like, well, if it's like a sports competition or whatever. And I'm like, sports is a stretch. But he says it's more, genuine / better than whatever this charade is. So let's do it. Their game. So Andy gets on stage and it gets very confusing with his names. Formerly lead singer of Mouse Rap. But now you'll know me as the formerly known singer of it's just so funny. And then the swan song. Oh my God. Once I was a golden swan, a swan of a man. Now that swan's name was Andy, and he started a rock and roll band. It's so good. And it's actually so catchy, first of all. But secondly, it reminds me of Jack Black in School of Rock. So you guys know that I'm obsessed with that. And I think that it's such a good song. So amazing. He made incredible nachos that everybody claimed they loved. Then his bandmates dicked him over with a massive rock and roll shove. It's so good. And then we talked about this briefly before where Mark Rivers essentially said that every song he writes for Andy has to have some sort of like watch me fly moment. And this is where it comes in. This is my swan song, watch me fly. It's so beautiful. I can't stand it. It's so, so good. Love it. All right, so Anne comes back and is basically Mona Lisa-fied, if you will. Glitter, curls, all the things. Tom won't break up with her Tom won't break up with Mona Lisa for Anne's because now they've kind of switched roles here. But Anne starts hurting him and forcing him to help. And then the cut back and forth is really cool. Because Andy's still playing in the background. And then I love this part, though. The beautiful duckling I always was inside. Whoa. And then he just starts screaming and staring at the band, essentially crying and sobbing. And then the cutting off of that editing is so good. It's just hilarious. Well done. So there is a gorilla guarding the course at the putt-putt place, and I love Leslie's line in answer to why is there a gorilla, and I said this before, but it's cute, it's fun, it needs to be saved. I just think all of her quips and comebacks are really funny. So the gorilla statue removed from the putt-putt course and left in Ron's office was previously featured in season 1 episode 5 of 30 Rock. Now, I don't really know how that happened or if that's really true, but it has to be. It doesn't have to be, but I think it's true. But I guess it doesn't quite make sense because Parks was filmed in LA and 30 Rock was filmed in New York. So how'd they get the gorilla across the coast? You know what I'm saying? I'll go back and check that. But that's what it says online. And we all know that everything online is true. So Ron leads by 1, and Leslie tries to distract him by saying all the things he hates, including like bean sprouts, Ralph Nader, don't mess up. But Ron gets it, and so Jamm gets the win, essentially. Ron gets the win for Jamm's vote. And, oh my gosh, Chris has this moment where he's trying to be positive again, like, ultimately, we learn the most of ourselves in our losses. And I was like, shut up, Chris! We didn't save the putt-putt! Ugh. The employee that comes out does not want to be there. Ron won, so he gets the stuffed animal dragon, and it's so hilarious. This guy's name is actually David Phillips, and he's primarily a writer and producer, and he's a huge writer on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So that's what he'll go on with Dan Gore, also who worked on Parks. He also worked on Sex Lives of College Girls, Rick and Morty, a lot of UCB things. Amazing. He's also a writer of Grand Crew, which I believe was in 2021, and Nicole Byer was in it. I love Nicole Byer so much. She has a podcast out right now called Why Won't You Date Me? She goes on tour frequently. She's also a stand-up comedian. And I liked that show, so I don't know why it didn't do well, but, well, I can kind of guess, but whatever. Anyway, I loved it. So, I don't know. I do feel like it's not fair that he would get that dragon, the stuffed animal dragon, because he wouldn't have even gotten it if it wasn't for the putt being open. So I agree with Leslie's move of giving it to the kid. I liked it. Okay, so now we're at the bar, and Tom kisses Anne so they can try to get rid of Mona Lisa, essentially saying, like, Tom and Anne are together, so Mona Lisa can't be involved. But Mona Lisa thinks they want to have a threesome instead of breaking up, and Tom is like, let's hear her out. Sure. I mean, let's not, like, dismiss this. And Anne has finally had it. She's like, you know what? I'm done here. You owe me the blanket. And Tom is finally like, okay, this isn't real, but I still don't think we should date. And Mona Lisa agrees. She is like, being single is the tits. Again, no one but Jenny Slate could do that. And then she randomly asks someone to have a threesome with them, and this random someone agrees. I love how casual they're all being. She's like, yeah, okay. Oh my gosh. I just love that. Writing is really funny. This gal is played by Alison Paccia, and she's been in a ton. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Poccia. And she's been in a ton of stuff too. Chasing Life, Blue Bloods, Love and Death. She has her own show, Pretty People Inc. That's pretty cool. So well done, Allison. There is a deleted scene where Mona Lisa and her are like grinding/dancing on each other, and Tom is like, this couldn't have worked out better. Which I think was really fun. Andy comes in with a fancy suit at the Parks office, and Donna says, "Fancy Andy." I do love that. And basically, Andy is like saying, funny goofball music, Andy is gone. I'm serious now, and this is what I'm going to do. And I also love that he mentions that he's, going to play video games or whatever, which is not the adult suit version. And Ben's face at everything that Andy is saying is so funny to me. Just like utter confusion and concern. Because April, and the reason I feel like he's confused is because April's being very supportive and says, like, call Burly, like, whatever. And Andy's like, well, if they want my song, if they try to steal my song, I don't even remember it, And I just love Ben's face of like, how did you forget the song you just wrote? And I will say, that's kind of common. You can forget the song you just wrote. You can forget the melody. It goes out of your head very quickly. But I still love Ben's faces. And especially when Andy has Ben's briefcase. He can't get into the briefcase, and Ben's like, yeah, because that's mine. And he's like, really? I have to imagine it's a briefcase from when Ben lived at Andy's house, or Burly. It was technically Burly's house, really. But when they all lived together, I have to imagine that, because I don't know how else he would have found it, and come in with it. So Leslie brought the putt gorilla to Ron to shame him, and it turns out she paid a bunch of money for it, which, honestly, Leslie, bummer. But Leslie is justifying herself and saying, like, she'd pay any amount to shame him. And Ron and your principles, God forbid you're flexible in any way, and the gorilla thing backfired anyway because he really likes the gorilla. And yeah, so next up, we've got the threesome going insane. Tom is telling Anne how it went. They're in the courtyard, and instead of stealing money, Mona Lisa steals the birth control pills and says, bitch, you're going to get pregnant. And then she sells the birth control pills as, fake ecstasy for college kids, which honestly, not a bad business idea, which I think is kind of hilarious because I didn't even think about this when I was watching it. But it's kind of funny because John Ralphio says that he does that with the flower when Ben and Chris are going through the baby thing and like carry around a sack of flour and see if you can get it to survive, and like they do in high school, and John Ralphio overhears it and is like, are we selling flour to high school kids as cocaine? So they clearly have their standards right, John Ralphio and Mona Lisa. But hopefully they're making lots of money off that. Okay. Anyhow, and I guess I'd rather them sell flour and birth control pills, even if it's fake, than the real stuff. So there you go. Okay. So Tom says he tried to break up with Mona Lisa, but he really didn't. But they aren't really dating either. So it's like kind of a weird sex buddy moment. Tom gives Anne the chenille blanket, but he gives it back. She gives it back because there's all these rules. And I was like, Anne, you gotta keep that shit. Just because he was explaining how to take care of it, like you can deal with the 5 seconds of him being dummy. You know, I was like, Anne, you earned that blanket. You get to take that home. Anyhow, so Jamm now goes into Leslie's office and says, "What's up, yellowhead?" Which I kind of love. I mean, love is a strong word, but I thought that was funny. And he tells Leslie that he will go back on his word if Leslie gives him something else. It's true. I mean, his word means nothing and is garbage. And he tries to compare him and Leslie as the same, but all of her stuff, I feel, is at least for the good of the people or fun. Even if it's not your opinion, you know, it is trying to be for the good of the community, because he says the thing about, you know, selling a parking spot and all these other things for the pool hours to be open. And I was just like, but that was for the kids. I don't know. You know what I mean? We are not the same. But it gets to Leslie anyway. And Leslie goes into Ron's office and says she has 6 things to say. This is such a great, wonderful, lovely monologue for Amy Poehler. This was done so well. I just love it. I laughed out loud at her physical movements that she combined with "'Twas Leslie killed the beast," and like kind of moves her head up like that. It was so funny and so good. And I gotta say, you'll hear this when I talk to Brian Stack, but I went back and watched a lot of her Conan bits because, oh, by the way, if you haven't listened to Amy Poehler and Conan on their podcast, listen to that. But I just went back and watched some of her clips, and it's so lovely to see her physicality and how free she is and fearless she is with moving her body in intertwined with the comedy and physical comedy. I don't know why that took me a while to get there, but anyway, it was just so lovely to see her trajectory, I guess, because we don't really see physical comedy in Parks and Rec from Amy, rightfully so, I guess, you know. And so it's really lovely to see just kind of her growth and all the different things that she's so capable of, and I'm just such a huge fan. So like to see these little moments of the monologue, especially when she's all the different inflections and the different movements that she's making as the choice, as the character, as Leslie, is just really fun and inspiring, I feel. So hopefully you guys felt the same way. Anyway, so that's probably my favorite line. "'Twas Leslie killed the beast." She wrote a ballot measure to try to save the putt, so that's hopeful. Again, sorry if you don't agree, but also that's great that she's going to write a ballot, and honestly, just kind of like a good way to end the story of in this episode of how she does not agree with Ron. You know what I mean? And it's total Leslie fashion of not just being like, okay, well, I guess you won. I guess I'll give up now. No, that's not her. Leslie ends this monologue. This is another reason why it's so good, because she ends it by saying she's very proud to have Ron as her friend because of his principles, when she was just yelling at him earlier about his principles. And then he's like understanding and says, "Do you want a drink?" Very much. She's just very fast and quick. Andy says sorry to Burly. And honestly, the things Andy does is kind of super mean and not what a friend does as far when he was explaining those things. But Burly accepts and proves that it really wasn't a slight. You just have to like be a part of the band if you want to be a part of the band. You know what I mean? And he's very cute. Burly's very cute and says, "I'm more of a background singer anyway." And April tries to support and say like, "Yeah, you can say that again." And Andy's very nice and says, you know, "No, you have a great voice. Like, don't say that." You know what I mean? I love April slapping Ben and being like, "Yeah, Ben, God." Again, Ben's confusion in this, which is kind of funny because Ben has a very minimal role in this episode, I feel, because it's, you know, he's not really involved in the story or the A and B story. Anyhow, they have a very cute friend moment, Burly and Andy, and I just love it so much. Welcome back, buddy. I love that. It was so cute. Loved it so much. And yeah, I guess my question also, this is not serious, but my question is, how does Andy not know about melting the cheese on the nachos? Because Andy is a snack guy. Okay? Andy loves snacks. In fact, he eats a whole thing of Skittles, and that's his favorite food. Butter is his favorite food. Most of the things are all melted. This leads me to believe, or they should be melted. This makes me question. Is he melting the butter on the popcorn? Is he melting, or does that just naturally happen? Pancakes. He puts butter on grapes, so maybe he doesn't melt butter on stuff either. He just eats slabs of butter. So maybe that's why he thinks that cheese is the same situation. But I would assume, after going to all the bars that have nachos probably, that he would know this is how, nachos are made. So I guess my question is, do you like the nachos without the melted cheese on purpose? Can't be, because his line of, you guys are going to look like such an idiot. But also, maybe he thinks that they're going to look like an idiot because he prefers to not have the cheese melted. It's a very important question that we're asking, okay? So I would love to know. Pratt, come to the front, please. You know what I'm saying? All right, so Leslie is talking now about being on the city council and thinking it would be the same as working with Ron, essentially. You get mad or you get hungry and go home, you'll just get over it kind of thing. And I love that Ron compliments Leslie, too. He says that she's determined and he respects her because she complimented him, and it's really nice to hear that reciprocated, that their friendship is important, Leslie wants to take back the gorilla, by the way, and this is where we see this lovely friendship moment with Ron and Leslie that's so important to the show and so necessary for the end of the episode because we need to see them be friends, which is such a huge deal in one of the seasons. We'll get there when we get there. But for this episode, we needed to see them be friends again, kind of, and agree to disagree is such a great illustration here. And it's a really good feel-good moment and very hopeful, as this show is so good at doing, because this is back in the time when you could have disagreements politically and still be friends, and we are just, I feel, so far from that today, and I try really hard because I feel like this show is explaining to me that you can have different opinions, but your morals at the end of the day are the same, and what's important in life at the end of the day, and people's lives are important. And I think Ron and Leslie agree with that and agree that people's lives are at stake. They're important. They deserve life. And now it's hard to say. It's hard to be friends with people if you don't have the same morals. So especially politically, it's where do we go from here? But I don't think that the answer is cutting anyone off unless it's really toxic to you and you just are in physical, emotional pain. I get that. But I just don't think the answer to creating this world is by separating and not trying to understand each other. But I hope and I wish that the other side would see that too. We just all have to fight like our lives really depend on it to come together somehow. All right. Moving on. Okay, so we are now at Mouse Rat, I believe. We're seeing Mouse Rat play at their reunion show. Burly is singing, which is so nice because we see that Andy proved his his word was good when he said, no, you have a great voice, you should sing more. Two lead singers. Name one other band that's done that. And Ben shouts out, the Beatles. Oh my God, Ben. No need to do that, honey. No need. But it's so funny. And Andy's look is so good. Confused and also what the fuck? Why would you even disagree with me right now? I'm on stage. And then it is funny that I wanted to point that out. It's funny that they use Burly's real name. Burly is Andrew Burlinson is his full name. And Mike Schur and him went to school together. And, all of his friends call him Burly. So I think that's wonderful that they made that a part of the show. It's really cool. I think they sound great together. I think their voices really complement each other. This is also a real Mouse Rat song with Mark Rivers writing it, and it sounds very similar, as we know, to like Dave Matthews Band. This one kind of sounded like Matchbox 20 songs that we know, which I think is really, really funny. So, yeah. I know we had bad times, but we had good times too. This one's called Menace Ball, I believe. And if you are not following Mouse Rat on Spotify, you know that you can, right? Isn't that nuts? Nuts. You can follow them. All right, guys. Well, that was Swing Vote. I feel like I went through that really quickly and probably missed stuff. So I am open to having a conversation about it. And yeah, I think maybe I'll do that as a recap. Actually, I want to look up and see what like social activities does the government fund besides like parks and schools. Not that that's a social activity, but you know what I'm saying? Like, does the government actually have a putt in their ownership, somewhere? Maybe they do. Who's to say? This had to come out of some real life thing. So anyway, there's a lot of government funded things, so this isn't super far off, and I'm probably reading too deep into it, but I'd be interested to know if there's an actual putt that is owned by the government. So anyhow, well, thanks so much for listening. I hope that you guys enjoy this and the Brian Stack episode that's going to come out soon, and I guess that's all I've got for you. So please let me know if you have any questions. Rate, review, subscribe, all the things. And we'll talk to you next time, where Maddie will be here for our last episode. Last episode of season 5 is coming up. Insane. Oh my gosh. Okay. See you guys soon. Bye.
There's a park and some pals, and there's also therapy too.